Hi my dear children, welcome back to our second part of air and water. So in the previous session you have learnt about air, is it? Yes, you learnt about the properties of air and you also learnt the layers of atmosphere, is it? Right. So in this session you are going to learn in detail about water, right? Come on, let's see. Yes. Now water is available on this earth, is it? Yes, of course, the water is not available on the other planets, like earth is the only planet that has air and water, right. So in the earth, water is available in the form of salty water. The 90% of water is available on the earth in the form of salty water, right. But merely the remaining percentage of water is available on the land, maybe in the form of it may be available in the lakes, ponds or underground water, right. Now this water is very essential for all the living beings, is it? Yes, you all know that water is very essential for all the living beings. Without water no living organisms can survive, right. Right. Now let us see in detail about this water. First thing, what are the uses of water? Yes, of course, water is very essential to drink for, as well as many people use water for some other purposes, right. For example, people use water for cooking, for washing, for taking bath, right, and for of course for drinking, right. So also the water is also used as a fire extinguisher, right. So to put off the fire, the water is also very essential. So for this kind of activities, water is being utilized by the people, right. And of course all the living organisms drink water, need water to live, to survive, right. Okay. Now let us see what are the sources of water. Where do we get this water? Yes, we get water maybe in the pond or in a lake or in a river. Even we can see a lot amount of water is present in the sea or in the ocean, but we cannot use those salty water, right. So the water which can be utilized maybe in the form of fresh water, right. So where do that water exist? Where do we get that water? Yes, we get water from ponds, lakes, river, stream, ocean. So these are the sources of water. Even of course we get rain. So even the rain is also a source of water. So we get water through the groundwater, the underground water is again refilled with the help of the rain, right. Okay. So the rain fills all the pond, lake, thereby the water exists there. So these are all the sources of water. So we get water from these places, right. Okay. Now this water, we know that water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen, right. So it is a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. Now this water can be exist in 3 different states. So it can be available in a gaseous state, it can be available in a liquid state, also it is also available as a solid state, right. Now where do this solid state that you can see? Yes, of course in the glaciers, near to the polar regions you can see water as a glaciers, right. Yes. So the water can be available in these 3 different states, right. So we get water, I mean the water can be in the form of ice or in the form of water or in the form of water vapor. Clear? Yes. Now we can say if the water can also dissolve many different particles, right. So it also acts as a universal solvent. So in your 4th standard you might have learnt water is a universal solvent, right. So because it almost dissolves all the other things, right. But there are some things that cannot be dissolved in the water. So thereby the water becomes impure, right. So, we can easily say there are some substances that makes the water to unfit for drinking, unfit for use. So, those substances are called as impurities, right. Now, what are the impurities? So, we can say there are impurities, or there are impurities. When the water has impurities, we cannot able to drink that water, or we cannot able to utilize that water, right. Now, we can, as the impurities is divided into two different categories, we can say there are some soluble impurities and there are some insoluble impurities. So, what is this soluble impurities and insoluble impurities? Yes, do you have a confusion? Come on, let us clear about that. So, what are the soluble impurities? For example, sugar, salt. So, when you add sugar, when you add salt into the water, so the sugar and salt, does it dissolve or not? Take a tumbler of water, mix a teaspoon of sugar or salt, what you can get? Yes, so the salt and sugar dissolves in the water. So, that particular impurities are called as soluble impurities. The other thing, the impurities that do not dissolve, for example, sand, mud, wood. So, when you take sand and you dissolve in water, so there the sand and the water will not mix, will not dissolve. So, that impurities are called as insoluble impurities, right. Now, this impurities can be, we can remove this impurities in many different ways, but we are first going to see about the insoluble impurities, how we can remove the insoluble impurities. So, this insoluble impurities, what are the insoluble impurities? Sand, mud, wood, right. So, when the water is mixed with sand, how to remove it, right. First, we will see what are the methods that we can remove the insoluble impurities. So, here you can see which is the clear, which water can be utilized here. Just see this slide and tell me. Yes, so this is a water which is clear, right. So, this water can be utilized for drinking purpose and for other purposes, because this water is clear and this water does not have much impurities, and thereby it is good to use it. But here you can see the water is little bit muddy, is it? Of course, you can see it, right. So, this water is a impure water, it may have impurities, but you cannot easily find out the impurities, is it? Yes, so there will be the insoluble impurities is present. So, here you can see the water is little muddy, right. Yes, so here there may be impurities, but we cannot able to identify it, but it has impurities, right. So, it has soluble impurities, right. Now, let us see what are the methods that are used, that are undertaken to remove the insoluble impurities, maybe your sand or mud or wood, right. The first process is sedimentation. So, sedimentation. So, sedimentation is the process thereby we can easily separate, or we can easily remove the insoluble impurities from the clear water. So, what you have to do is, when the water has all the insoluble impurities, so just keep the water as it is without shaking. So, take this glass and keep it for a while, for a longer period, thereby you should not give any movement to that particular glass or maybe a vessel. So, thereby what happens, all the insoluble impurities will settle at the bottom of the vessel, or it may be a glass, right. So, leaving only the clear water on top of it, right. So, this process is known as sedimentation, sedimentation. This process is known as sedimentation, right. Now, let us see the next one. So, after sedimentation, I have to remove that water, right. Yes. So, that process is known as decantation. So, decantation. So, here the water is settled here. I mean the impurities are settled down at the bottom, right. So, what you have to do is take this glass of water and you have to take a glass rod, and keeping the glass rod slightly you tilt the water, the clear water through that glass rod. So, thereby we can easily separate the clear water, leaving only the impurities at the bottom of that vessel. So, thereby clearly you can remove this clear water in another glass. So, this process is known as decantation. Now, even this sedimentation can also be done with the help of a process which is known as loading. Okay. So, let us see what is loading. So, this is known as loading. So, sometimes the impurities will be heavier, right. So, that impurities can be easily sedimented with the help of a chemicals which is known as alum. So, ALUM. So, alum is a substances that is added to the impure water, that is to remove the impurities. So, thereby the impurities of this water will combine together, and thereby the impurities are easily removed from the water. So, this process is known as loading. So, loading is a process where we will add alum. Alum is a chemical substances that will increase the rate of the sedimentation. So, the sedimentation process can be much more faster, can be much more easier when we add this alum chemical into the impure water to remove the impurities, right. Now, so these are the processes that can be done to remove the insoluble impurities. The other processes is, the last one is filtration. So, with the help of filtration also we can remove the impurities, right. So, there will be a filter paper. So, the filter paper can be utilized to remove the insoluble impurities. So, if for example, if the water has some mud or something, so how we can able to easily remove? By keeping a filter paper. Just you add the water into the filter paper, and thereby the water alone is separated. So, filtration is also a method that is used to remove the insoluble impurities. So, in this session you have learnt about what is water and what are the sources of water, what are the uses of water, and we also saw what is impurities, right. So, there are two types of impurities, soluble impurities and insoluble impurities. So, today in this session you have learnt the methods that we can remove the insoluble impurities from the water, right. So, go through this video as well as take your book and go through this lesson also, so that every hard word you take it and write it for many times, so that when you do the self assessment you will not do any spelling mistakes, right. Okay. So, now after you watch this video, in the below description link you can see a Google Drive link. Click that and you will get this lesson related study material, question bank and self assessment. Take the study material and copy in your science subject note and read it and go do the self assessment. Once you do the self assessment, you will come to know how much you have understood about the water concept. Thank you.